Okay, we back?
Let me double check. The stream says we're back, but I need to make sure that we are before we come back. We were talking about Mushin.
Yes. Lucian would be a great place to learn your characters. There are the dummies, there are the bosses, and it's just you and the boss. You can't blame on anything else, really.
Uh, it's all up to you. And
Yeah.
every class so far has been able to beat all the floors. So I know a lot of people go into Mushin and they're like, there's no way my class can beat it. I've heard that so many times. So many times, but I guarantee you all the classes have gone through it. It's interesting, it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It takes a lot of dedication. I mean, I'm not a very good player, but I sat there, I think for Yuk-sun, floor 15, I think he is. I sat there for like 2 days straight on my Soul Fighter before I beat him.
Oh, wow. It took a while for me too, like a few days as well.
So I think you
Even,
just need to be okay with that.
Jung Hado, or whatever he's called in NA.
Yeah. Yeah. The sword guy.
Yeah. That also took me quite a few tries.
It's not. I think a lot of people expect to go into this game, and because they're successful in previous MMOs and whatnot, they expect success. But I think for BnS, you need to like kind of change your perspective a little bit. It's okay to get wrecked in Wishing Tower. That's normal, you know. It just means that you need to get to this level of consistency and like strong performance that you can, you know, last the whole fight.
After emerging from Mushin Tower victorious, you would certainly know a lot more about your class.
Yes.
Especially in defense.
Yes, the defense especially. Like we mentioned, like with classes, like the summoner, the assassin, you know, like sometimes your defense is not that clear cut because you don't have that many iframes, you know, so you need to start thinking of different ways to position yourself or time your CC or whatnot, or set things up in a certain way creatively to avoid damage. So I think things are not as cut and dry as people might expect, maybe, but it's a fun experience nonetheless. Anything else you want to talk about the PvE? I think we're hitting about the 1 hour and 30-minute mark right now, and I think that's a pretty good time. We've been here for a while, but do you have any other thoughts? I think we'll get your last thoughts about PvE and maybe take some other questions, and then go into our conclusions for the first podcast here that we've launched.
This doesn't really have to do with PvE or PvP, but what are your thoughts on the localization?
Yes, the localization. So this goes. I'm assuming this goes from everything to the storyline, the text and the quests, the translations of skills, and also the voice acting. Right. So for me personally, I think I'm a little bit biased on voice acting. I feel like I've heard so much bad English voice acting that I'm always, you know, on the back foot about it. You know, I'm always skeptical. I think there were some voice actors that did okay in the English version. To that, I would say if you provided me a Korean or Japanese dub, I would pick one or the other of those. I would do that.
Personally, I would also go for Korean voice acting, but I would have to give credit where it's due. The English voice acting isn't too bad either.
There are definitely some that are really good. I mean, I felt kind of moderate about it, but a lot of my friends, when they first played the game, when they first got to, I think Soha is her name, the rifle girl, when they first got there, everybody just like facepalmed super hard. I don't know how you felt about that one. That one was special.
For me, I turned off all voices in the beginning, so I didn't really
My voices, the voice acting for me always ended up as hup, and then the quest accept sound.
Yeah.
That's about my experience with them. But I do agree. I think some of the voices were pretty good. I don't know if you saw that there was a video that somebody posted a while back of like the comparisons of the voice acting. Like they had the English version, the French version, and a Japanese version for the cutscenes. And I actually thought the English version for like the introduction in the Hongmun school, you know, the opening cinematic, I thought that was, you know, it wasn't bad. It was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I was kind of biased at first, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too terrible. I mean, when you listen to the Japanese voice and the Korean voice, I think, like, especially Korean, because it was designed with that voice in mind, you know, I think everything feels more natural.
Yeah.
There's some just though. That being said, there's some Korean voices that I heard that were just like, "What the hell is this guy on about?" You know?
Some are very cringe. I can
So-
tell you that.
Someone just like, dude, I'm sure that sounds really weird to any native Korean speakers. But in general, I think overall the cinematics in the game and the voicing in the game is really enjoyable to watch. The audio, the music, and the voice acting behind it, at least in the Korean version, was very entertaining. So I think they have a high bar to pass for the English voice acting.
Okay, somebody mentioned this, like some characters have like beams in their dialogue.
Oh, yeah, like little jokes and stuff that they try to put in.
Especially the guy you meet in the desert. The guy with the glasses.
Yeah, yeah, the old guy.
No, the guy you meet you save in the cave after meeting Soha.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, I know what you're talking about. He has a lot of memes, but he's supposed to be like the nerd, right?
Yeah. I can tell you a bit of trivia. Like in Korea, his name is Kwon Doku or something.
Uh-huh.
His like name is Doku, as in otaku. So he is a nerd.
He's the nerd character.
Yeah, and he would he is
He would
supposed
know
to
all the
sprout up
memes.
memes every time he talks.
Oh, that's pretty good. I think that's fun. I think it's fun when they do that. Of course, like other characters that may come to mind is perhaps a clown in Spiral. Maybe he'll
Oh
have something
yeah,
silly.
that guy's awesome.
Yeah, he's very silly. There's a lot to look forward to. I mean, the game has a lot of content in it. I think like when a lot of people see it, there's like, oh, it's just Poharang. There's a lot past that. There's a long way to go. A lot of dungeons, a lot of fun bosses to fight. And alongside that, there's a lot of storyline and quests and stuff.
Should we talk about the very controversial localization topics?
Well, okay. Okay, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you start?
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but if it's given an okay by the localization team, headquarters, I guess they did change the whole story for the mountain areas. I forgot what it's called.
Which part of the leveling process is it? Are you talking about like the fish place?
Silver Frost Mountains, yes.
Ah, yes.
For that, Korea went ahead with a different story, but then China changed it all. They completely overhauled the entire story of that area.
I think my thought on this, and I think they did this with a lot of the names too, like how they translate the names. In my opinion, they should translate a lot of these almost word for word, right? Because in a sense, like Blade and Soul, how I take it to be is like it's kind of like this martial arts story, right? And so it's okay if certain things are called like, oh, Thousand Dragon Island or something like that, you know? Like it's okay. Like I think one of the things that came up was they called it like the skittering tunnels or whatever, and like it was actually translated as like the something spider tunnels or something like that, you know. And I just feel like there's no real need to be that specific, you know. It is supposed to have this martial arts like kind of almost Asian like feel, you know, and it's okay if you preserve that. And I think that the original Korean storyline is captivating enough, it's interesting enough to warrant that kind of respect to it, you know. Try to keep it as intact as you can.
So you think they simplified it a bit too much?
Yeah, because like when you hear the name, like even if it doesn't necessarily make the cleanest statement or the cleanest title in English, that's okay. It's not supposed to be English, you know? And I think you get that feeling if you directly translate it and not try to like change it too much. You get that feeling that's like, oh, this is like a martial artsy kind of, you know, foreign thing.
Oh no, I think my webcam is a
Froze?
bit off. No, it's a bit
Oh.
off on the screen.
Uh-oh. DDoS. DDoS coming. Alright. Well, there we go. Let me move this a little bit. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Overall, I think the localization is okay, maybe.
Yeah, I think the localization is all right. Um,
There are some controversies, such as the story changes, which is quite minor compared to what China did to the Korean story. But I guess it's for the better. The Chinese
mhm.
story, I do like the Chinese story a bit better than the Korean one. For the Silver Frost Mountains, I should add.
Yeah,
And
I agree. Um,
not too sure about um, the Blue Quest changes though.
hmm.
For the the stealing the women's clothes thing.
Oh, right. In the bear area. Is
Yeah.
that? Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot. I think the localization team has a lot of text to look through, and I suppose like it would feel a little bit better if they, because obviously they're making certain changes, right? So like you would have to know like what their overall game plan is. You know, like what do they want to change this into? What kind of feeling are they going for? In the end, like what is the overall picture? What is the end picture that you want to achieve? If it's not the same as the Korean client, then what is it? You know, I think that would make a lot of people feel a lot better.
Mhm.
So, well, let's. Why don't we take some final viewer questions here? Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Castlewood says, which class would be would be the tank? I think we kind of answered this.
Blade Master and Kung Fu Master.
Blade Master and Kung Fu Master. You could kind of do it on other classes too, in certain situations.
Actually, I should add that for Power Run, a ranged tank is better.
So like a Force Master, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Force Master tank was very popular in release due to the fact that like some bosses have like ranged patterns and melee patterns. Poron's melee pattern, she jumps all over the place.
Yeah.
It gets really difficult for melee fighters to like stay on top of her.
Yeah.
So yeah, generally a Force Master tank is preferred in that regard.
So the fights, you know, there's going to be certain fights that are more, I guess, tuned a certain way,
Uh-huh.
right? Certain classes might fit better than other classes. All right. Jack underscore Q says, please explain the relation between PvP and PvE and why it's hard to only to main one branch with Hong Moon levels. Please explain the relation between PvP and PvE and why it's hard only to main one branch with Hong Moon levels. Not exactly sure what that means. I mean, I guess if we were to give an overview of the Hong Moon, I can't even tell. Is he talking about the Hong Moon skills? Because that relates to branches, right?
Uh-huh.
The Hong Moon skills, as you unlock them, you can freely put your points in and take them out. So
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same as just changing your skills normally. It's just that you've unlocked these more expensive skills. For the levels, you get normalized at a certain Hong Moon level no matter what, right? So
Yeah.
it's not really like a choice.
So you'll be set to a certain Hongwen level or certain level, and everybody will have the skill points what their character originally had.
hmm Um,
So stat wise, everybody's the same. In terms of skill points, everybody isn't.
yes, yes. And skills unlocked. Everybody's not necessarily the same.
And relation between PvP and PvE.
Um, I
In
can only
PvE,
imagine you would use certain skills for PvE. You wouldn't use certain skills for PvP.
that's true, but some Hongwen skills are used for both,
hmm
like the Blade Master Bubble.
Yes. Very popular choice. The
Mhm.
assassin right button.
Right.
Hopefully we answered that question. I'm not exactly sure what it asked, but I think we did our best. Thormund again says, question for Daka. Can you go in depth on sidestep spam mechanic
Oh,
in
that.
neutral game? And what are its limitations aside from low ping requirement?
Okay, so I guess it really depends on how fast the animation is and how far you are from the enemy. your opponent. So basically, whenever a opponent uses a dash, like as soon as they use a dash, the game thinks they're right next to you, but the animation needs to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, once they use the dash, they're practically right next to you, so you can use your Q and E to iframe the animation of that attack.
And this technique can be very ping dependent.
Yes. So that's the gist of it. But some animations are extremely fast, such as KFM dashes. It's almost instant, so you can't really QE that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really QE if they're close, because the animation will be shorter.
Mm-hmm. So you have to stay on top of it and push it at the right time. Some are incredibly slow, too.
Yeah, especially like the jumps from destroyers.
Yes, destroyer jumps are very slow. Assassins 2F. Their 2F is quite slow also.
Yeah. Actually, F is kind of weird because it goes to your back.
But you can still dodge it because the targeting doesn't swap.
You would still have to have your target on them
Yes.
before they dash.
So if you didn't have the target on them and they step to your back, then I think it's unlikely that you would dodge it.
Yeah.
But if, for example, they were in range and you have the target locked onto him and then he goes behind you, it actually has some leniency and you'll still dodge behind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one quick tip I can add. If you go into options and go into targeting, you can set your target sensitivity. So if you set that to low, it's going to stay on your intended target a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use that to your advantage.
Yes. All right, so sidesteps. I think that's actually really important in PvP to utilize because it's a very good tool. Jano504 says, what does Mushin Tower drop? It drops accessories, it drops weapons, it drops bowpie.
Generally, bowpie pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The sets... except the first few floors, which is mostly a crit related set. Other sets are mostly PvP oriented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for world PvP.
It gives the I believe it was like the health value to the crit or something like that. Something about the stats that made it a little preferable.
Yeah. Other than that, there's also accessories, like you said. Not much weapons, actually.
A few here and there. Usually used as fodder to upgrade stuff.
Yeah.
So now that the system's changed to the upgrading, everything's kind of thrown into the grinder.
We're not sure how the late game items will turn out in NA and EU. It'll be interesting how NC West deals with the legendary items, because it was different for each region, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it was done a little differently. But that's about all Mushin Tower drops. It gives you a daily quest that you can, get some gold out of it and get some like useful, just like utility items.
Mushin Tower isn't really good for drops.
Yeah.
It's more about for the skills.
Yes. All right. So Tegigon, I don't know how to read your name. Sorry. It says, "What's your insight on assassins?" I suppose as a summary, we talked about assassins: high single target DPS, animation canceling, poison stack mechanics that you have to manage, defense that is somewhat longer cooldown on your iframes, but you have a good amount to deal with, and then you have the party utility with your stealth and your projectile block.
In PvP, you would use your stealth to your advantage to buy time for your cooldowns, and to you get the initiative in PvP, since you get to choose when to go in or not.
Hopefully. Hopefully you do. Sometimes that's not the case, but hopefully you do. You really want that initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also have a lot of teleports. You have teleports and high mobility. Red Mez says, is endgame PvE 24-man raiding, or is it more focused on 4 to 6-man dungeons? I I'm inclined to say 46-man dungeons because there are only a few 24-man raids, but they are quite important. The 24-man raids. On Korea server, that is.
On Korea, we get in later level 50 patch, we'll get an extremely hard dungeon called Black Tower or Black Skyscraper, depending on translation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's extremely fun raid.
Mm-hmm.
For some boss fights are fight against the FPS though.
Yes. Forever PTSD of turtles. Oh my god. But yeah, I think there's a good mix. There's a lot of good content that is 4 to 6-man dungeons that you'll have a lot of fun with, and then there is space for that 24-man raiding later on if you want it. I think for level 45, the 24-man raids are kind of a little more casual. You just use it to gear up some pieces to go into the 46-mans.
I say those aren't true for 24-man dungeons. They're more like fields, which has like a limit of 24 people.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to put it. More better to go in and kind of free roam and do stuff with the other people in the area rather than like a raid per se. But that's not true at level 50. At level 50, it's different. It's like more organized and more difficult.
Yeah, they added the team system where you have 6 parties grouped in. I mean, 4 parties of 6 men grouped into one team.
Yeah. So that's that. Mexploit says, what are the first things you guys are going to do at launch? Factions, rush to 45, PvP, crafting, all characters, dungeons. I'm probably going to rush to 45. What about you?
For me, I will take my time leveling and fill in data for BnS tree.
Yay!
Speaking of BnS tree, I'll be filling in data for the boat pace simulator and the item evolver.
Yes,
speaking of BnS tree, check it out.
You can provide a link for that. Somebody provide a link for BnS tree for Daka. He puts a lot of work into that, and it's a very, very useful tool. If you haven't used it, I can't imagine who you are who hasn't used it, but you should. You probably should use it. It's got a lot of good information. There we go. There's the link. All right. Consume says, Gone or Jin? Jin. What about you?
For me, I would say Jin. Gons are too bulky for my tastes.
There you have it, Consume. Bomani says, what do you think about the fact that we have no in-game voice chat like other regions? Is that true? I didn't notice.
That is true. NC said,
Koreans make extensive use of it.
NC said that there are legal reasons. I'm not too sure about the specifics, but yeah, we don't have voice chat. They'll tell us to use like curse voice.
Yeah.
Or other platforms, but I believe in-game voice chat is almost crucial in later game dungeons, especially the 24-man.
You need the coordination for sure.
Yeah. So hugging is almost out of the question.
Yeah. Unless everybody's willing to jump on. Like, here's my server address. The in-game voice chat is very nice on the Korean servers. Even though I don't understand most of what they say, when they start screaming my name frantically, I know that there's something going on. And it's actually kind of cool because you learn a few keywords, but not gonna be available for North America. Apparently, I actually didn't know that. I didn't notice. Liquor says, question for Rainy and Daka. What are your favorite things about BnS? Dungeons or certain things in PvP? Why don't you start this out, Daka?
I would say the combat.
The combat?
I'm sure many people will agree.
Yes.
Very unique combat system, very fast-paced. I love fast-paced games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, I would say that the combat is incredibly satisfying also. But maybe my favorite thing about the game is the possibility that people will take an interest in it competitively. And then I get things to talk about. I get things to cast. That's probably my favorite thing about the game. Castlewood says, is it worth it to pay for the premium? If you're going to play for 3 months or more, it's worth it to get the Masters Pack if you like the game. If you're going to play for 3 months or more and you can't really be bothered, you just want to play around and like spend time playing the game, then maybe. It's up to you. I think if you're going to spend a lot of time and get really into the game, it's worth it to get the Masters Pack. The other packs I don't think are worth it.
I guess it really comes down to individual preferences.
Yes.
If you like the game, go for it. Like BnS fits I think it fits a very niche market.
Yes, I think so too.
Some people may not like it, some people will love it. Yeah, it depends on the person.
Yes, it's definitely a different kind of game compared to the other MMOs out there on the market. A lot of people try to liken it to a game like Terra or not, but even then, like even though both games are like active combat systems, I think the pacing and the way that you approach the fights are very different from the two games. I'd have to explain a lot. I'd have to go into detail why I think that, but I think it's true. Blade and Soul is a more unique. It's not just the same thing, you know. It's very different. And finally, Rat Eye says, question for Daka and Rainy, can I has autographs? I don't know, man.
Autographs?
Autographs? I don't think you want to see my autograph. It's pretty disgusting. So with that, I think that wraps up all our viewer questions. So Daka, as a closing thing, is there anything you want to say or anything you want to talk about for Blade and Soul on its release? The early start is in 2 days.
Well, I don't know. I need to think about this for a sec.
Well, okay, I'll start out then. I think that we've waited a long time for this game. I think a lot of people have built up expectations for how the game is going to be and what it's going to be like. And so it's very easy for now that it's real, that the game is here, that people complain, you know, and want certain things and things that they haven't quite imagined would happen is happening now. But I think it's just, to some degree, it's nice that it's even here. You know what I mean? It's nice that it's even here, to be honest. That doesn't mean that you guys can't keep pressing NCSoft for, you know, what you believe you feel is a fair, I guess, a fair request. And that doesn't mean that you guys can't be dissatisfied with what you get. But I think the game is very fun. We'll have a lot of fun with it. As the content gets released, I think it'll be really good. Some certain things to mention is impbns.com. If you guys go to impbns.com, you can see the Imperial Network information about tournaments, podcasts, videos, guides, builds, brackets from all kinds of different players in the community, from top players like Rat Eyes, like XJ Colorized, Enel, Enda, and you can get a lot of information there about Blade and Soul stuff. Our podcast information will also be on that website, so you can go and check that out. And I think that's it for me.
Okay, so I thought of something. So in the end, this is a game. What's the point of a game? Is to have fun.
Yes.
So in the end, I wish everybody coming in to have fun. I hope you love this game like I do. And yeah, good luck and have fun.
All right, guys. So with that, that's our closing moments for our first podcast here. I hope you guys enjoyed what we did talk about. Of course, Daka and I will be growing as the show continues on, and hopefully we'll bring more entertaining topics, have more interesting thoughts to speak about, and that you guys will keep coming back and listening to us and watching us. We're all learning together, Daka and I, about how to do this, and our future shows, like we mentioned, are going to have more variety to them, different guests, and as the game comes out, maybe we can even think of different things to do rather than just straight talking to you about certain topics. So we're definitely thinking about making creative content for you guys and changing things up to keep things fresh and interesting. Please give us a lot of support. I think Daka, you know, maybe not something he's entirely used to, but I think he did very well. And I would like to thank him for joining me do this. And of course, for those of you guys who were following along, initially Rat Eyes was supposed to be a co-host, but he was unable to join us as a co-host on this podcast. But We really appreciate his support. We really appreciate his help, and perhaps you'll see him as a guest in the future. So he's definitely safe. He's not injured or anything. There's nothing crazy happening. It's just how it ended up happening. So that's that, and I think that's it for us. I think we're out.
Yeah. So see you in game, guys. If you're going to head
Yay!
start tomorrow, I mean not tomorrow, day after
The day
tomorrow.
after.
Uh,
I'm
yeah,
really
See
excited.
you in game. I'll be in Poron server. Rainy will be in Mushin server.
All right, bye guys.